not who you go with, honey. It's who takes you home.
Fun fact, that line makes it into all 4 movies. This movie is directed by Paul Lynch. And before we go any further, this episode is brought to you by Cool Dude Inc. Go click the link in the notes and go make yourself look good. Let's get this started. It's prom month. Every May I like to try and do prom movies. And I'm a little late this May. A group of kids play a version of hide and seek in an abandoned convent. And Robin shows up and suddenly she's it. She ends up falling out a 2nd-story window, and if that's not bad enough, then the window falls down on her, turning her into a bloody corpse, and the other kids, instead of trying to help her, they decide to make a pact that they will never speak of this ever again, because they don't want to go to jail, and she's already dead. Why should they all be fucked?
6 years later.
Although it seemed weird for Kim and Alex to be bringing flowers to their sister's grave before school, how early do these guys get up? It was a clever way to bring the viewer up to date. Just like the prank calls in this film aren't really necessary. This ain't Black Christmas. The prank calls were a clever way to reintroduce who the kids are in the beginning of the movie and now who they are for the rest of the film as teens. And today just happens to be the anniversary of Robin's death. Their father, Leslie Nielsen, is also the principal at their school. And when they get there, we see our first red herring, Mr. Sykes, the groundskeeper. Nick is taking Kim to the prom despite his involvement with her sister's death. Did I mention it's prom night? What a shitty tie-in. She just happened to die on the day of the prom. But then again, this is 1980. Friday the 13th hasn't even come out yet, but they're trying to do, Christmas horror, Halloween horror, holiday horror, Friday the 13th is on its way. Hey, what about proms? Nothing is safe from a good slasher movie. Nick also has a weird love triangle with Kim and Wendy, which is really weird considering how long these guys have known each other. This would make sense if he knew them for a little bit, but it's you've known these guys for at least 6 years since you were kids, and now you got this weird, awkward love triangle going where Wendy thinks that Nick is still hers. For a little backstory, there's Leonard Murch, a child molester. He was the #1 suspect in Robin's death because he was a sex offender that lived nearby. But when Nick's dad, McBride, the cop, the sheriff, whatever the hell, he went to question him, and Leonard Murch made a run for it and got in a car accident. Coincidentally, on this prom day, Leonard Murch has escaped again, taking with him a nurse who he strangled and left for dead at the same convent where Robin died. And we have red herring number 2. Kim goes to the seemingly empty auditorium to practice her dance moves, and Wendy comes in to inform her that while Nick might be hers tonight, after tonight, everything's going right back to normal. And once again, this is a weird way for people to act that have known each other this long. But then again, all of Kim's friends have known about her sister's death and the truth behind it, and nobody said shit. Her whole life's a lie. And what a piece of shit Wendy is. Could you imagine being involved in the death of somebody's sister and then fighting over that person's man and who gets them? And it's hey, just back away. Doesn't guilt control your behavior at all? In the cafeteria, Kim gets sexually assaulted by a man in a black mask. And her little brother Alex comes to the rescue and proceeds to beat the shit out of 3 guys till he takes a kidney punch, which looks like he got shanked. The staff break it up, and they unmask the leader of this little gang. And we meet Lou, who looks like he's wearing a bad Ralph Macchio wig. Leslie Nielsen suspends Lou indefinitely while letting Alex off the hook and throwing the mask into the garbage can. So Wendy takes Lou to a drive-in restaurant and hatches a scheme. After gym class, the mirror in the locker room breaks, scaring the shit out of Kim and Kelly. But Kim doesn't bother mentioning it to the PE teacher, who's also the prom coordinator, as her and Nick practice winning the Prom King and Queen Award, which I always thought those were, I didn't know that anybody knew about it until it was announced. Lou and Wendy spy from behind a curtain, and I'm expecting at any moment a large pig blood purchase. And McBride has cops patrolling the area. Nick picks Kim up for prom, and while waiting, he starts looking at a framed picture of Robin on the mantle. And dude, either spill the beans or don't. But don't date Kim. You can't date somebody when you have that much of a secret. It doesn't work. Lou and his two friends pick up Wendy. The prom theme is disco madness. And McBride is lurking about, smoking. I guess in 1980 you could smoke in school and it wasn't a big deal. It's one thing I love about 70s movies is seeing everywhere you can smoke. It's hilarious. People be in hospitals. When Wendy and Lou arrive, Principal Leslie Nielsen looks at Lou, who he suspended indefinitely earlier that day, and just thinks nothing of it.
Why you bringing up old shit?
And after trying all day not to lose her virginity, Kelly finally gives in. Drew professes his undying love for her as he romantically plans to deflower her on the locker room benches that the students put their sweaty butt cheeks on while they change in and out of their gym shorts. But at the last minute, Kelly decides she can't go through with this. And Drew gets pissed. And he's like, you know what? He throws his corsage off. He's like, I don't need this. Any girl will be lucky to make it with me. I'm out of here. I'm going to go find somebody else. And he leaves. And Kelly gets her throat slashed with a piece of shard mirror. Drew is this close to being red herring number 3. Elsewhere, Jude and Seymour are about to get it on in his van. You know, that nerd she met on the way to school? He reminds me of Shelley Finkelstein from Friday the 13th, Part 3. You know, the little prankster. It was both of their firsts. And unfortunately, while Seymour was busting her cherry, he also busted his glasses. Afterwards, they smoke a joint and think about how they'll remember this for the rest of their lives. Then the back of the van opens, and a guy starts stabbing Jude in her face. And Seymour freaks out and starts driving away, and he drives right off a cliff. Poor Seymour, he had absolutely nothing to do with Robin's death. And this murderer has no slasher morals. He kills virgins and non-virgins alike. But they were right. They would remember this moment the rest of their lives. They were such a cute couple, too. It's hard to believe yesterday they didn't even know each other. Next, the killer is not only back at the high school, but he's in the bathroom with Wendy, and he's got an axe. Now, he should have just killed Wendy first, or just killed Wendy and called it a day. But she escapes. He goes after her. She runs everywhere except back to where the prom is. You know, where there's people and witnesses. Does she not know where the fucking gym is? And he kills her. And the sad part about that is now we'll never know what her fucking scheme was. Good news for McBride, though. They found the sex offender. He's about 50 miles away from the prom. Now McBride can finally enjoy the prom instead of, you know, doing actual police work. Not knowing where Wendy is, Lou decides he's going to go on with the plan. I mean, after all, she did buy him lunch. And now, luckily for us viewers, now we get to know what the scheme is. Him and his friends knock out Nick, and he puts on all the crown and everything. He's going to surprise everybody by being the prom king. What a cool plan. But there's a little change in plans as the killer chops off Lou's head and it rolls down the runway thing, and all the other students freak out and panic and they run away. Except for Kim, she goes back to check on Nick. Now, if you didn't feel like a dick for not telling her the truth about her sister earlier, you definitely should now. She's putting her life on the line for you, and you're a piece of shit. But now it's Nick and Kim versus the killer in an axe fight. Problem is, the killer's the only one that's got an axe. But he ends up losing it, and Kim gets it, and she hits him with part of it, because it doesn't kill him, but it knocks him down. And he gets up and tries to stagger away, and she makes eye contact with him, and at that moment, she realizes who it is. And when they get outside, she protects him from being gunned down by the cops, because it's Alex, her brother. They killed her, he says, and then he dies anyway. So, Alex knew all along, and Alex never said anything. I'm just gonna kill people in 6 years. What a weirdo. This is a very weird plot. But I like watching prom movies, because I never went to prom, you know? Nobody ever asked me. Oh! That joke would have been funnier if I was a girl. The piece of shit award goes to Nick. His dad is a cop, yet even after his dad nearly killed an innocent man, Nick still never told him the truth. Then he decides to hook up with Robin's sister and continue living in an in-your-face lie on a daily basis for possibly the rest of his life? Fuck Nick. What did we learn?
Survival tales.
Don't play in abandoned buildings. If you're gonna have a date night in your van, make sure to lock all the doors and maybe turn your headlights off too. Never make a pact to conceal the truth. It bites in the ass every time.
This movie isn't that bad, but the fact that it all takes place in one day is mind-blowing, and the pacing is terrible. It sucks that when the disco music starts at the prom, that's like barely halfway through the movie, and nobody's even been killed yet. And Alex, the killer, I think it would have been a lot easier on his parents had he just told them the truth instead of letting their imaginations wander with an adult sex offender on the loose. He's just letting them being tortured by all the possibilities that could have happened to her before her death. And he just keeps it quiet till he can't keep it anymore, and he starts killing people. And now they're out 2 kids. But at least back in the 70s and 80s, when you watch the slasher movies, because they had the whodunit, it was kind of like you were kind of guessing till the end. Whereas now when you watch slasher movies with their multicultural casts, it's pretty easy to tell who it is. It's the fucking white guy. That's it for this prom night, kids. If you like these videos, hit like and subscribe. Share it with a friend. Share it with all your friends. See you next time.